Hi, I'm Emily Epp, Manager of Communications at the Cariboo Regional District, here on August the 24th with Mike. Thanks for joining us again, Mike.
Thanks, Emily.
So just to get started here, Mike's going to give us a bit of a weather update and sort of a general overview.
Certainly. So thanks, folks. We do have some cold air across the fire center today, a little bit cooler outside. That's going to change through the day. You are going to feel it warm up and get hotter. That's sort of the future of the weather, is a continued ridging and drying trend across the fire center. But we did take some precipitation in various areas today. We know that up in the northeast we had over 10 millimeters, close to 12 in some stations. Fortunately for us, we've seen some precipitation at the top end of the Elephant Hill fire, which is great news. We have seen other amounts, 6 to 8 millimeters across the north central portion of the fire center. But again, unfortunately, the same old story. Very little down towards Kleena in the southwest Chilcotin. As far as the winds go, again, windier here, which will challenge our crews, of course, but we are making good progress out there on all of these fires.
Thanks, Mike. And I also just wanted to touch on a few changes from the Cariboo Regional District side of things. So some great news for people out in the Kleene and Tatla Lake area. These evacuation orders out there were downgraded to alerts late this afternoon. That also has opened up the Highway 20 corridor. So for updates on roads, as always, check drivebc.ca for most up-to-date info on that. We also downgraded an evacuation order in the Maeford Lake area, which is just sort of northwest of the north arm of Quesnel Lake, a very small area there. That's also been downgraded to an alert today. So Mike, do you want to talk about just on a couple specific fires for us too?
Yeah, first, just back to the general sense, I guess I would say that for the whole fire center area, we have seen relatively quiet fire behavior, which is great news, again, because of that different weather that we're seeing. The exception would be some lightning that we've had in the fire center over the last 24 hours. We've seen lightning coming down mostly on the west side of the Fraser River, a few strikes over east of Williams Lake, but we're having great luck with our initial attack so far. None of those fires, again, are growing larger than a hectare in size. So that's sort of the general take on things, which is one of the reasons why we've been able to recommend some of these downgrades in orders to alerts. I would like to talk about the Canim Lakes, the south end Canim Lakes fire here. We do have over 75 firefighters working on that site right now. It's about 111 hectares in size, and the size really hasn't changed a lot over several days. We're continuing to work hard to keep that fire within the guard lines and within the box, so to speak. On top of that, the Elephant Hill fire has been active over the last few days. We have seen some fuel burning off within the perimeter, mostly within the perimeter, and we're going to continue to keep seeing that as this portion of the fire center stays a little bit drier and a little bit windier, and it's going to heat up just slightly more than the rest of the fire center area over the next several days.
Thanks, Mike. And I wondered too, we've been getting a lot of questions, or some questions on Facebook about what's the difference between guards and contingency lines. Just wondered if you could explain that a bit for us.
Yeah, sure. We talk a lot about these things, as Kevin Skrepnik said yesterday. We use a lot of terminology that isn't clear to folks. So with a guard line, what we're trying to do, or what we're trying to achieve, is we're trying to dig the flammable organic layer off of the top of the surface of the earth. Sometimes it's very thin and sometimes it's very thick. Underneath that layer of sticks and leaves and burnable material is mineral soil, not so flammable. So anytime we're trying to build a guard line, the goal is to remove that flammable organic layer, dig down to the mineral soil, and thus create a fuel break in the land. Sometimes we do that by hand. Our hardworking crews are out there with their hand tools, digging that guard effectively, sometimes very wide, sometimes very narrow. Other times we're using heavy equipment to dig down to that soil, down to that mineral soil, remove that flammable fuel, and create quite a wide guard line. Now, the difference between a guard line and a contingency line, we do get asked that quite often. A guard line is a line that we would build in fairly close to a fire perimeter, depending on the size of the fire and the intensity. And then we would often take hand ignition operations and remove that fuel between that guard line and the head of the fire by lighting it up and burning it off. A great technique that I've talked about quite a lot. A contingency line, slightly different. Contingency usually stands for backup plan, maybe plan B, if that's a good way to explain it, where we would be standing back a little further from the fire and tying in a larger type of a line, again, as a secondary plan, well back from the initial guard line. That's the difference between a guard line and a contingency line. Contingency, further back, a little bit of a plan B.
Okay, thanks Mike, that's a great explanation. Stay tuned for more video updates tomorrow, and thanks for joining us.